Coogs house as the transfer portal is winding down. A few Cougars continue to trickle in to Willie Fritz's squad. What can we make out of the new Cougs?
You are Locked On Coogs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Coogs, daily podcast about your Houston Cougars. I'm your host, Houston-born teacher and coach Parker Ainsworth. And it seems like, as always, I'm talking transfer portal. Every other episode, at least, with transfer portal. Anyway, Martin Marroquin is here to join us of GoCoogs.com is what I'm going to plug, but there's lots of different things there below his name on the YouTube channel as well. Martin, it's really cold up where I'm at right now. And I usually do start with a silly question to let people join the conversation down below if they don't know what to say. Is hot chocolate just warmed up chocolate milk?
No.
You thought about it, though. You had to think about it for a second.
I had to think about it, yeah.
Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Without going too far down a gambling kind of rabbit hole, Houston's made some solid pickups in the transfer portal. And guys that don't feel like gambles at all, right? And I feel like I really like what I saw at a Josh Donald. Josh Donald is an Appalachian State transfer, 6'1", 320 pound. If you told me he was 335, I'd believe you. Big old dude from App State, playing defensive tackle, nose tackle, I assume was what he'll play at Houston, depending on how the defense shades and that kind of stuff. Had pretty good PFF scores, and you go watch his video that I could find on YouTube. I don't know how much access you have to other things, Martin, but I was really impressed with how he held down the front. Really just seemed to be impossible to move backwards. And while it's not always that he's moving things forwards, I kind of value not moving backwards. Is that silly?
No, I mean, I think for what they asked him to do and likely what he'll be asked to do here, I mean, he's very good at just becoming a fire hydrant, essentially. Like, he's got a real good, strong lower base, and he's built well. Like, he carries 300-plus pounds really well. He's not sloppy at all. So that's a good indication that that's a lot of muscle at that weight. And it shows.
Yeah, no, when I said he might be 335, I guess I was really more saying like about how he plays, not because he has some big belly busting over his belt or anything like that. Like, right. He's a strong dude.
Yeah, he that's what I noticed. I mean, he took on double teams a lot, and he maintained his leverage and really the line of scrimmage. A lot of times, anytime he got singled with a center, I mean, it was a huge disadvantage for the center. He literally would turn him into a blocking slot. I said this on Twitter, but I mean, when he gets leverage, he gets underneath, and he's literally just driving them into the backfield. And that's going to be a huge plus for really, I mean, the middle of the line of scrimmage is going to be controlled by him. And there's a good indication of top end talent in how he played Clemson and he held his own. He didn't look, worse against better competition. He looked the same throughout.
Yeah, they don't have a whole lot of high majors or P4 kind of talent on their schedule from last year. But you mentioned the Clemson game. He was certainly not like getting beat or outsized or pushed around in that game. If anything, he was kind of dominant in a couple of their other games. I thought it looks like so I should say I watched clips, not games of the guy. I did not have the same kind of access, but I do think that like there were several clips from Georgia State, which makes me think he probably did pretty well against them, where he did exactly what you're talking about, but turning guys into a sled and just, you want one-on-one? Here's your one-on-one, and just drives off the ball. And it's not fast. It's not like head jerking explosive. It's just slow and steady forward, like the tortoise in the air kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean it's pure strength. He's got some twitch and some pass rushing ability. He's not like a one trick pony, but in my opinion, his true strength is his ability to maintain the line of scrimmage and play the run. And yeah, I mean, if you give him one-on-ones in the pass game, he's gonna win his fair share for sure.
Well, and again, win with the same kind of brute strength we're talking about. Is he going to be the most? I mean, I got my opinion, but I want to hear yours. Is he the most impactful defensive line guy coming in?
Probably. I mean, it's him. It's the Washington State kid. Am I missing somebody?
No, I think it was between those two, and I guess they both kind of do similar things that they
Yeah, they do.
eat up gaps. What do you make of that? You bring in two different guys to eat up gaps.
I would guess that there's an intention there because Carlos Allen still exists and he's going to play. He's a good football player,
and he was really good a year ago.
I mean that was a gem that they got last year in the portal. And I mean, I imagine fronts where they're all three playing at the same time. Brandon Mack is going to be coming back, but bringing in two guys like that do the same thing when you have Carlos Allen already on the team, I would think the intent is to have a three-man front more often than not, and they're essentially just holding the line and allowing second level blitzing and creating pressure through scheme while they're just controlling multiple bodies.
Well, and you talk about three-man front, and I guess we still put question marks on that because before we see spring practice and stuff like that, it truthfully is a guessing game. Austin Armstrong has said both at Florida and now here that he runs multiple fronts. He had hybrid positional type guys before, but multiple fronts I think means sometimes you're going to have like the scheme guys will want like the eagle down, the 2 3s and a nose tackle. Sometimes you're going to have more of a head up 4 to kind of balance it out. But guys that eat up blocks up front, let linebackers roam. I do think it's interesting that you've got 3 guys that do that now. Are they going to be kicking themselves for not getting a more traditional 3 technique kind of guy? I think that this is intentional.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think that those guys can't play 3 tech. I mean, Carlos Allen is certainly the widest of the 3 bodies. Very good,
in the most loving way.
Absolutely. No disrespecting to it at all. But no, I mean, I think the other guys can do 3 tech. They can do some pass rush stuff. They do have quickness. I think the Washington State guy, I think it's Laufau. I don't want to butcher his name, but I think
I would pronounce it Laufau, but I'm open to being corrected if someone wants to tell me how to say
100%. It. But I mean, they have some quickness to them. They're not just stiff, big bodies. So like, there's certainly opportunity for multiple fronts and guys playing on different parts of the line. So I would have been nice to get Keith Cooper again, but that those guys don't grow on trees.
Well, and Keith Cooper's playing on Sundays next year. Or at least if I were putting money on it, I would put money on it. When you were in the office doing these kinds of things, when was it that simple where the guy was like, hey, I need road grader types. And so you went out and got road grader types. Was it as simple as you said, hey, these dudes can play ball. I don't know what you want to do with them. He said, talk to them. Like, what was the process there? Because again, these guys have similar skill sets.
Yeah. I mean, you get an idea of what a coach likes. Like when I worked for Coach Early, I knew that he liked guys that could pass rush regardless of where they were on the line. So that's just what I watched first whenever I watched the D lineman. Can he rush the passer? If he couldn't really do that, okay, well, how good is he against the run? And so, yeah, I mean, if he could play, I would present him. But I also understood that, like, if the guy can't really do a certain thing that the coach likes, it's kind of a waste of time to present him. So, yeah, I mean, you do have to understand coaches' personalities, things that make them tick, schematically what they're doing. Like I've said several times, I'm not like an X's and O's guy, but I do know generally, like, okay, well, this coach wants his guys to do this. So I need to present him guys that can do this. Otherwise, he's not going to like it.
Well, and it could be a coach that wants to do something. It looks like right now it's like a cafeteria that wants to sell a bunch of food. Because, I mean, these guys are big old boys that can play up front. And playing the Big 12, moving up conference, and make some noise and things that might be a difference. The defense is good a year ago. I don't mean to say that wasn't, but you're certainly adding more beef. Yes. I want to continue the conversation and talk some about comparing next year's defense more broadly, or at least maybe including the back half, and last year's. But I also want to remind folks that today's show is brought to you by Rocket Money. And listen, we all have those pesky subscriptions that just don't go away and you kind of forget about and they just keep hitting you every month. I certainly know that I've had subscriptions I just forgotten about and had to pay a couple extra times without realizing it. Rocket Money makes it easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant to deal with your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills so you can spend less and grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users, has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Parker Angel, Locked On Coogs. You're joining again by Martin Marroquin, and I will say that smoother, but Martin, we talked in the last segment about defense and the defensive line. Last year, the defense was on the field a lot and still one of the best defenses in the country. And in pre-pod, I think we're both in consensus that the defense gets better next year, but I'd be lying if my analysis there didn't kind of include Hershey McLaurin coming back. For background, the folks at home, the junior college transfer rules have changed, so he actually has another year of eligibility all of a sudden. And he tweeted out very publicly that he was withdrawing from the NFL draft. Hasn't posted anything else. So, Martin, do you get the impression he's coming back? First, I guess you should start there.
I would say, yeah, because his opportunity to transfer at the moment has passed. So the portal window closed on the 28th, but for guys that had a bowl game after that, they had 5 days to enter the portal, where Houston didn't have a bowl game. So he's not going to have that opportunity until after the spring if he decides to do that. Of course, that's speculation. I'm not saying he would transfer. There's no reason to believe that he would, but if he's not going to the draft, he's going to play another year of college football, I imagine. So I would guess it would be with Houston.
Well, and folks that he was new to Houston, but he had a couple years at West Virginia and then the JUCO year. So he gets the 1 year back based on the new transfer rules. He is one of several Swiss Army knife type kind of guys. We both like Latrevion McCutcheon as well as that kind of a guy. I weirdly think in a secondary coverage and playing in the box kind of way, it might not have as many things that come out of the Swiss Army knife, but AJ Halsey fills a lot of different kinds of roles as well. Another future NFL guy in my book. I look at this defense and what's returning, and you bring in a great linebacker from Tulane, kind of because he'll be healthy. Is it crazy to think that the back half of a top 30 defense a year ago is actually even better next year?
I mean, no, because you didn't lose anybody in the secondary that played a lot of time. And so they're going to be a year more mature in their ability to play the game. So I would think that they would perform at least as well. Especially with Jeremiah Wilson coming back, like that was huge. So, man, I don't know if the national conversation, Houston folks get it. I don't know if the national conversation necessarily gets how big that was. I'd imagine if he'd wanted to play, he could have played at a lot of big time CFP bound programs. Like he's really good. Great ball skills, good anticipation. Yeah, he had a great year. And I guess you could say Syracuse to Houston was a step up. It depends on who you're talking to as far as like what conferences really mean. But
right.
He played well and with more opportunity. So he entered the portal for a reason. I'm not going to say anybody was colluding or reached out to him, or maybe he heard from the back end that somebody might have given him an opportunity to play somewhere else. But like it probably happened. I mean, it's just the nature of how things are now. But he decided to stay, and good for Houston. And him.
You got him. You got Latrell. You got Halsey. You got Platt. And I'm counting the linebackers in this. Obviously, I'm talking about the back half. Who who makes a big jump as you see it? I got to answer too, but who do you think makes a big jump in the next year?
Latrevion McCutcheon.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's going to be a star.
So we both like Latrevion. Do you think my only qualm would be, does he put his hand in the dirt so often he doesn't show off the other stuff? Right? He can really do a lot of things, and you think he gained a lot of weight. He definitely visibly gained some weight in a good way.
Yeah.
I thought he looked good as the dog at the end of the year last year, but what do you see him doing? You evaluate him at a very different level than I did.
Maybe they have a vision for him that is rushing the passer, and I do think he's gonna win a lot of matchups just with pure athleticism. He's got very good length for a guy his height. I want to say he's like 6'2", but he's got freakishly long arms. Maybe now. I think he showed up at 6'2". He might be 6'3", 6'4" now. But freakishly long arms. He's going to be able to bend the edge if that's what they want him to do. But I just think he's so good in the middle of the field. He has that, the athletic ability to range, that they're going to want to use him to do that kind of stuff, especially if they're going to be potentially bringing safeties, nickel guys off the blitz. They're going to need to have athletic guys out in space that can do, some stuff in coverage. And he's just made some freakish plays in practice that I've seen that I kind of just want to see him continue to do, one-handed interceptions in the end zone type stuff. So I'm just very excited about him getting an opportunity. Outside of that, I think Puck Garner played well last year too. I imagine he gets more opportunities. Those are two guys. Every time Latrevion McCutcheon was on the field, he did something. There was a forced fumble, the tackle for loss or something. There was an impact play.
Well, or he took up blocks and someone else did. I thought he was really good. They lost, losing Holmes hurt, that kind of stuff. But the real deal, I think, here is at that linebacker, at the Mike linebacker spot. You lose. I guess Kendrick Gant played some, Jamal Morris played some, and Batten played some Mike. That's three pieces you're losing. But if you bring in Platt healthy, you elevate Latrevion's snap count, I think you can plug those holes. Can I ask you another question? Do you feel like we've got too many DBs? Because in the last 72 hours or whatever it's been now, CJ Douglas committed as a safety. I don't think Kentrell Webb is losing his spot. I double check to make sure he didn't. Did I miss him entering the portal or something? And I don't think that's the case. Are there too many guys? Are we going to lose some of these guys at the end of the spring or something? Am I too excited about something that's not going to happen?
I would be more concerned that guys that we haven't seen play yet are sent on their way, right? We haven't discussed local 4-star Maurice Williams at all.
Man, and Mo was such a great spokesperson for his class too. He was like, let's stay in Houston, guys. And
I'm not saying that to say that he is on his way out, but to me that speaks more to the depth of talent that has been brought in, and it's veteran talent. Now, that was Maurice's first year. He's got tons of eligibility left. There's no reason to think that they wouldn't want to keep him. I'm not in the building to confirm that. I don't know. But we were competing against LSU and other big programs to get him, and he decided to stay in the city. So
him committing to Houston was a big deal for that class. It was the end of the Holgorsen thing that obviously didn't work out, but him committing was a big deal.
Yeah. And then, there's guys like Jonathan Barbas, Jamal Shaw that are good prospects. They were 3 stars, so they didn't, there wasn't as much hubbub about those kinds of guys. But Jamal Shaw is a 6'2" corner. Jonathan Barbas is one of the most freakish athletes I've ever seen. He was the kid that was doing flips off of a car and catching himself like Spider-Man. I don't know if you've ever seen those videos, but he's incredibly athletic and strong.
I think I'm able to play them right now, but that'd be pretty funny.
Yeah. But yeah, there's guys on the depth chart at the bottom that are young that maybe are the ones that are pushed out come the end of the spring to make room for depth and veterans that have played and are going to see the field more. It's another situation where it's tough with the turnover and that the coaches didn't recruit those kids, so they don't mean as much to them. And it's not a knock. It's just a fact.
No, coaches have the relationships they've built, the same way kids value relationships, the coaches, the relationships they built. I don't get the impression, and just to speak on Mo Williams, because we've talked about him a little bit, I don't get the impression anyone doesn't like him. It's just that he's young, and they're bringing in guys. I mean, Latrevion McCutcheon's going to be in his 5th year of college next year, and Halsey his 4th or 5th as well. I mean, like, these guys are just older, bigger, stronger, faster. They've played more football. I don't know when you start saying we got to play some of these young guys or whatever, but I think that's a big piece of this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you do say we got to play these young guys unless you're winning in blowouts. I mean, it's just like, at what point last year did you say that? Because
we didn't have a whole lot of winning in blowouts. Yeah, maybe that's the trick.
Towards the end, you were like, oh, we could win these next 2 games and go to the bowl game. So it's like, well, we got to just play who we think is our best. There's not really like time for garbage time snaps, for lack of a better term. So,
or just the development of that. Yeah.
So.
All right, we're wrapping up the portal, and I want to talk about that class as a whole in a second. But first, a little bit of words from other folks. Locked On Coogs, Park Rangers, Martin Marroquin breaking down some portal additions. All right, we actually spent the second segment talking a lot about the roster with guys that were returning. Not a whole lot of portal names mentioned. But Houston has had a pretty strong portal class with a lot of names on it. The Avalanche kind of started with Conner Weigman there at the start, and a bunch of offensive guys followed. 5 linemen, I think, came. 5 offensive linemen came in like the next 3 or 4 days. You literally did this work as far as when you were in building on staff. You have looked at this more analytically from a seat where you're writing with Go Cougs, and you do some scouting work with professional companies. I guess my thought is, as you look at the Houston roster, as you look at what they've done, are they truly done with the portal? What are they missing? Are we looking for another couple booms in the next few days? Or is it really just like they've got what they got now? We got to get spring practice.
It's tough to say, because I don't know that the big time guys that would hit the portal right now that they would want are going to be available to them. We kind of talked about maybe it would be nice to have a true pass rusher to add to the mix of guys that they have, but I'm not really worried necessarily, because I don't know what the hell they're going to do defensively. I think I do like the talent at each level that they have acquired. So I'm more interested in just figuring out like what the plan is, not because I know of a good plan. I'm just curious what they're going to do with the talent that they brought in. And offensively, I was actually thinking about the fact that they missed on the tight end that went to Texas Tech, but Slade Nagel would have recruited Treville Frederick, who came over, was initially, I believe, committed to Tulane. He's now a Coug. So, they might be happy with what they have in the tight end room. I mean, he helped recruit the kid, and now he gets to coach him.
Right. Good point.
They brought in the kid from Tulsa, who we both really like. They won some big additions in the wide receiver room. They added Dean Connors to the running back room. A very good running back room already. So
very good running back room already. Dean Connors comes in. I don't mean to say it in a dismissive way. I'm glad he's playing for the right side of the city right now.
Yeah.
I was surprised. You were surprised too, I take it. He's a really good running back. He's very different than both Fat and Ray. And frankly, I kind of think Ray fits what Nagel would, or at least what Nagel did at Tulane when he was calling the plays. And so we're both high on Ray. I think you were actually high on him much earlier than I was. But I'm certainly high on him after watching him play the last half of the year. With Rashawn Sanford being who he is, does this guy show up and take reps from Fat? Does he take reps from Stacy? Like, where are they coming from?
I don't know. My guess would be I tried to check just on like his eligibility, because he was a JUCO guy, so it may be that he had a year left and he was like, well, Houston is essentially a step up in competition. If I win a battle there and get more carries, maybe it helps his draft stock. Could just be the kid wanted another year of playing college football after getting a degree from Rice. I'm assuming he got a degree from there. Good for him if he did.
He was there a while, I think. So, yeah.
I think he was there at least. No, he was there 3 years. So yeah, I imagine he did. But like I said, he was a JUCO guy. Could have just decided with the other year he wanted a chance to play more football because he hit the portal late. So
hit the portal late, and it was after the JUCO thing. I don't know. This is where a better researcher would have answers, and I'm sure someone else does. I don't know if he's got like family or something keeping him to the city of Houston. Maybe I don't know, but he clearly
he went to high school in Hawaii, so I don't know.
No, I mean yes, not like old family, like a girlfriend
sure,
or right or whatever, right? Like is there something keeping him to the city right now? He's like, I can play another year here. That's awesome, or whatever. He runs really hard. I'm not upset about adding him. I just don't know when he plays.
Right. I mean, he might be. Well, no, Stacy's a really good receiver out of the backfield, so it's not like they were missing anything there. But like his 2023, he averaged 6.5 yards a carry and like 9.5 yards a catch. So he's dynamic. He's good out of the backfield as a receiver. So maybe that gives him another outlet.
Well, in the video I found of him on YouTube is 2024, but I almost think that 2023 stats are indicative of how we would look next to a Weigman and the receivers that we have on this team, because that was a really good Rice offense, actually. If you go back and remember,
Daniels,
JT Daniels was the quarterback. The McCaffrey kid was there still. So not just because they beat Houston that year, but honestly, I think that was a much better Rice team
for sure.
And that he fit in pretty well there. But I think Rashawn Sanford's going to be the guy. I think he's going to be the lunch pail guy for a lot of this year. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody that was getting carries is still here.
Everyone that was getting carries, yeah, that's fair.
So yeah, I mean, they're going to have to find. I mean, maybe the offense sustains drives better, so they play more snaps, and there are more carries to go around. But I mean, again, great addition to the team. Always want to get talent where you can. It seemed like it may have been a low effort recruitment because the kid was a mile away. I mean, he realized he had another year, and he was just like, "Hey, can I come play for you?" Like, I mean, I'm guessing it was something like that.
Well, and for what it's worth, I would say that probably speaks, if that's exactly how it played out, that would speak pretty highly of the staff to me, where the kid's like, I want to go across town, actually. Like, that speaks good on Fritz and Nagel and whomever.
Well, yeah, I mean, they ran all over Rice, so maybe he saw that and was like, well, the team's going to be better, and they're going to run the ball.
They got, when we talked to the offensive line, they got a couple offensive linemen, the guard type guys that can really run through people. I don't know what position Agnello plays, but he can run through people. So I guess that's back to the question. They went out and got a running back when they weren't missing that. Are they missing anything as you see it?
I mean, on paper, I would say no. Is this team going to win the Big 12? I don't know, because we haven't seen them play on the field together yet. We don't know what the defense is going to look like schematically, but we do know the talent that exists there. Even with the guys leaving, talent that was in place was pretty good. The secondary is fully intact. They've added depth from SEC programs, guys that were getting 100, 200 snaps. Will James played like 600 or 700 snaps, I think, for Southern Miss. So I mean, they're bringing in guys who have played a ton, and guys who have played, people would say, more competitive league or better competition. I guess it's a better way to phrase it. But the question marks are just how guys play with more snaps. I would say Keith Cooper is the biggest spot to replace. Batten obviously had a really good year, but I do think Latrevion McCutcheon is going to be a star. I just think he's going to be incredible when he gets a chance to play a lot. So is he going to immediately be what Batten was? I don't know. But do I think he's going to make a ton of plays once, while he's figuring out how to play? Absolutely.
I don't know what the answer to that is, because truthfully, it's like you said, you just can't replace Keith Cooper. And I think the other thing too is, like, as a guy that likes watching the line, especially on my second watch through game, I focus on it a lot. I think Keith was, I don't know what the percentage was, and I should be able to find that, but Keith Cooper's double teamed a lot. Like, he made a lot of other people's job easy. he still won his one-on-ones. He still won his battles against those double teams and got a bunch of stats as well. But those kind of things where he's getting the double team percentage and whatever doesn't always show up because other guys make plays. That's hard to replace. I don't mean to say it's not. I think they did a pretty darn good job of trying. I also think, like you said, the scheme's going to be different. And I don't know. I think the schedule is actually a little easier next year than it was last year as well. Like I think things shape up for a pretty strong year if the spring goes carefully. I want to throw one last grenade into this though. The one thing that no one ever gets in the transfer portal, because why would the kids show up, is they didn't get a backup quarterback. They kept Zion. Weigman's the starter, presumably. I don't know why he would come if he wasn't right. He also was pretty solid. But Weigman's been hurt, like kind of often. And that's kind of the only derailing thing. But I also know realistically, well, I'd be, pie in the sky, go get a backup quarterback. Realistically, no quarterback is throwing their name in the transfer portal to come be Houston's backup. Right, like that's not a thing that was out there, so I don't know how critical of that I can be. Right, like you did this for a living. That's not what people do.
No, I mean, there was a situation like with us. We got Lucas Coley after his first year at Arkansas, and he kind of understood like, well, I'm not coming here to start because Clayton Tune is still here.
Right, play behind Tune for a year. Right, that was his thought.
Right, and that's just not the situation that exists. So it would be tough to do that, especially with Zion staying. If Zion left, maybe you can talk to a kid that, to just finish his freshman year and doesn't like where he is, doesn't like the offense. Maybe the staff got fired, they recruited him. There's that situation. But, as far as I know, I haven't heard any confirmation that Caleb McMichael is not going to still be there.
Well, and there was,
it
was kind of hipstery, trendy kind of feeling, but there were people saying in the spring, like, hey, this McMichael kid's pretty good. Yeah. Who knows what happens if he doesn't get hurt. So
right. And so that could be a good sign that Houston isn't trying to push that kid out because they're like, well, maybe we want you to stick around because you're not 100% certain with what's going to happen with Austin Carlisle in a couple of years, what kind of player he's going to be, or Keyshawn Henderson shows up day one as the best wide receiver on the team.
I should stress that I assumed Austin's redshirting. I guess I don't know that. Most quarterbacks do. It's incredibly difficult to play year one. It's not impossible. It's really difficult. And they brought in a guy to be the starter. I think it's very obvious that's the plan, but I guess no one has said that. He just hit 26 miles an hour on the treadmill this week. He is a crazy athlete. But I guess I didn't say his name because I assumed he was redshirting. Maybe that's not fair. I don't know.
Right. Well, yeah, I guess I was just more making the point that they're not going to get somebody to be the backup because in their mind they might have options that they like, assuming that was a course of action they had to take.
Well, and I guess if Weigman got, knock on wood, I wanted to have. If Weigman did get hurt and had to miss extended time, you could tear a red shirt. You could pull. I guess that's not permanent. I don't know. Martin, you do a lot of work, and I don't know what you want to plug. Marroquin is the place to follow you on social media these days. But what are you working on? Where can people see you and your work?
I'm kind of waiting for the end of this week, really, because I think classes start for U of H on the 12th or 13th. And so that should be when they're done with the transfer portal, because once classes start, you can't really have a kid enroll. But yeah, so I'll be writing something for Go Coogs at that point about just the class in general and how things might shape out. And I am kind of trying to kick something off and doing like a portal review of going conference by conference, whether that's a podcast or something to that effect. I'm not sure. It's still in the works, but yeah, maybe a couple of weeks, maybe a month down the road, I get started on that.
And that's at Marroquin, spelled phonetically for the folks that are listening on audio platforms, MAHROWKEEN. Martin, thanks again for stopping by. I don't know anyone else watching U of H transfer guys, certainly not as much as you are. I think I'm I'm the only other guy doing it. I don't know, but I'm happy that you and I are doing this kind of thing. And frankly, what's going to happen now is we're going to hit publish. We're going to hit send. It's going to go live on Wednesday, and some massive tight end is going to sign Wednesday night. That's what's going to happen. Go Cougs.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.